Hello, D-Rock here. Welcome to the channel. Sometimes after I've explored an area such as a cliff wall or a canyon, tract of desert, land, etc., and leave the area after not finding much, well, I feel I might have missed something. So I'll return to the area I had previously explored and try something different. It's simple, really. Instead of going right, I'll go left. If I was exploring a cliff with different levels, I'll try the next level, up or down, than what I had previously explored. And every so often, in an area where I had previously searched, I'll find something new. This actually happens fairly often, and it's usually the little things that are missed. That brings me to this trip. I had previously explored a section of cliff wall and not come across anything, so I returned and tried another section, just under where I had previously walked. As I slowly checked every space and under every ledge, I came across a small pictograph. It was drawn in charcoal and resembled a horse, and I also came across some squiggles. Not much, but it was something. As I continued searching, I eventually stumbled into a panel of images, all drawn with charcoal and faded from sun and time. And as I stood there examining the images, I contemplated many things. The individual that created the drawings, were they a child or an adult? I felt the drawings were from some point in the historical period, maybe 150 to 200 years ago. Indigenous or immigrant, I kind of felt the drawings were from someone who is indigenous due to the type of symbols that were drawn. Also, there were a few images that resembled horses, and I felt these drawings were from a more recent period of time. Still fascinating and kind of random. And as I floated through these questions in my mind, one fact stood out. Someone had sat in these cliffs and expressed their humanity by drawing images into the cliff wall some time ago. And it's that human connection that I find so intriguing. So join me as I head out into the desert to discover what once was.
Buenos dias. So I've spent considerable time exploring this stretch of sandstone cliff, and I felt that there was something here. And I've been here multiple times. You know, as I've explained in multiple videos, when I pick a section of terrain to explore, it is a time suck to sit there and scrutinize everything. It takes all day. Anyway, I found rock art in this section of cliff, which I'm going to today for this video to film it, because it's not going to be there forever. The rock art is unique in the fact that it's done with charcoal, I believe charcoal. I can't say that with 100% certainty. And the images are shapes, and what's notable about one particular, or I should say set of images, is that it clearly shows horses or people on horses. So as far as rock art is concerned, out in the desert, what I typically come across would be prehistoric, going back to the archaic period. So the rock art I'm going to film today, I would put into the historic category, mainly because, number one, it's not petroglyphs, it's not painting, it's drawing with what I believe to be charcoal, and because it's depicting, obviously, horses. So that time period in the southwestern United States, or horses, of course, weren't in use until the Spanish came through, and then we all know what happened after that. And that's literally the beginning of the historic period, European contact with the indigenous people of the area. So that's how I'm categorizing this rock art. Now, I'm not a professional. All of this is my own speculation, so I need you to take that at the value that it is. What's unique, I don't believe it is rock art, say, from an immigrant or pioneer or anything of that nature, because typically, say, in the late 19th century, when you'd find images, not really images, mainly pioneer rock art is just basically names or initials generally, and the year, like JDW 1875. Emma Wilson, 1888. That's generally what you'd find with pioneer rock art. I'm calling it rock art just as a generalization. It's not art per se, or graffiti, however you want to label it. I'm just labeling it rock art just for the ease of it. So this rock art we're going to see here in a second, and I'm sorry I'm a little long-winded here, is unique because, as I said, it shapes symbols possibly, and then of course the obvious imagery of a person on a horse. And I believe the art, the drawings, to be indigenous in the historical period. So that could span a few hundred years actually. It could have been someone here when the Spanish came to the area. It could have been someone here in the mid-19th century. It could have been someone here in the 18th century. There's really just no way of knowing. What I do know is that it's pretty old. It's faded away, and it's on sandstone, so it's not going to be here forever. Well, nothing lasts forever. But eventually the wind and the elements are going to erase it off the sandstone, because sandstone comes apart a little easier than, say, like granite. So that's my explanation. Let's, sorry, it's a long one. Let's get to the rock art. Now, when I found the art, I was taking time to like literally search every, little lip or overhang in this section of cliff. And it's got like a few of these overhangs here. So what draws my attention to places like this is obviously a good place to get under for some quick shelter. Spend time, wait out a storm, wait out something. You're protected from the sun, perhaps the wind and the rain, just to give you an idea of what this can do. Let me just back up and show you. Just so you're aware of something small like this, I can easily crouch in here if I don't sit on some cactus spines. And this, I can sit out and wait out a storm. I've got cover from overhead. I've done this many times in the desert, riding out monsoon rains, lightning, anything of that nature. I've crouched under trees, overhangs like this. So the art's located in something of this nature. Obviously, someone was in there drawing. Were they there for sheltering purposes? Were they hiding? This is, I try to put myself in the individual's life, so to speak. I just try to wonder what was going through their minds as they made that art. How was their life? One thing, for example, my wife pointed out, well, if they had time to sit there and draw on the rock, then they weren't in need of something immediately. That's true. It does suggest some type of like a little bit of leisure time. So it's all these little variables that go into it. It's just fascinating to think about. But I just want to give a quick example of how something like this, a little lip in a cliff that provides shelter, what are you going to do with your time? There's some charcoal here. I'm just going to draw on the rock to pass the time, So here's another example of another overhang that would provide plenty of shelter if need be. I could sit in here comfortably for hours. Winter, I'm actually out of the wind. The wind's howling right now. It's like 20 miles an hour. I'm out of the wind, I'm out of the sun, I'm out of the rain. So you can spend considerable time hanging out in places like this. So this is the first area that I found drawings in, and there's charcoal all in here. As a matter of fact, see, there's still burnt wood in here. You can see right here, something was done into the rock here. And if I come over to the side, someone was way in here. And you can see the squigglies down here. There's some rubbed in here, and there's some here. So this whole spot in here could have been some type of sheltering. There could have been poles gone up. There's a lot of things to look at. There's a suspect. There's still there might have been a wall out here. Anything's possible. So there's some really basic markings inside this. For for lack of a better term, shelter. But I'm gonna walk right up here, and this is where I find more stuff. Okay, so we've got some marking right here. If I come down a little bit more, I've got some etching here. Really hard to make out, but I'm under the impression that maybe a zoomorphic figure, animal-like figure. And then I come down right here, you can see an image shaded into the cliff here. Now, I just want to point some things out. Got my pointer here. I'm not touching this, by the way. You can see pointed what should be ears. You can see the torso, arms. You can see the shape of a horse. This is a person on a horse. The legs, the tail, arms, torso, ears, head. It's there. Yeah, very fascinating. There's more scribbling here. And we're going to go to the big piece here. All right, this is a nice smooth piece of sandstone. And here we go. There's some art right there. And now we come to the panel on this smooth section here. So look at this. Images. Here's an excellent representation of a horse. You can see someone definitely on the animal. I mean, it's kind of undoubtedly, well, at least for me anyway. Make our way over here. There's some symbols, shapes. I think this is another example of a horse somehow. I back out a little bit. And when I come down on this, you can see there's something like a grid-like pattern on this. Now, grid-like patterns actually pretty common with indigenous art. And then there's something here that's faded pretty good. I think I'll try and warm this up a little bit with some saturation. But there's some drawings here that extend over the entire piece, but it's so faded out now that it's almost not legible. But this one up here, this is not, I wouldn't think this is done by an immigrant pioneer. I think this is indigenous just because of the imagery. Lots of dots, squiggles, the patterns. The depictions of horses is interesting. And like I said, this is my own speculation, but there was something here. And like I mentioned, I believe this art is definitely in the historic period due to the depiction of people riding animals such as horses. Isn't that absolutely fascinating? And then once again, returning to this symbol here, or symbols, I should say. Very fascinating stuff. Looks like there's something there as well that's almost completely faded away. So what you need to understand about this area here is that it's pretty protected from the elements, not necessarily the wind, but the sun and the rain, because it's an overhang. All this really gets is like the last rays of the western sun, setting sun, so the sun's not baking it out. So I think it's so faded that I do believe it has some age. Yeah, I have no way of telling how old, but it's very, very interesting. There's some up here, some squiggles there. So someone sat in here, made the drawings, what was going on in their life, what are they depicting? Obviously scenes of people on horses. I don't know, it's just absolutely fascinating to me to think about, and to come across this in a place that seemingly there should be nothing, you know. So someone was in here making this for what purpose? Don't know. But I definitely wanted to film it because, like I said, you can see here how the rock is peeling away, and you can see just to the left of that flap of the surface there, how that's just gonna, the wind's gonna catch that at the right moment, and it's gonna just take it off, and these images will be lost forever. So I wanted to film this because, I don't know, you know, the human connection, I guess. It's just absolutely fascinating. All right, folks, thank you very much for watching. I got lots more content on the way. If you are new to the channel, please consider subscribing. It is free and it helps the channel tremendously. I appreciate you watching once again. We'll see you next time. D-Rock out. Adios.